We are at Tel Dan. Tel Dan was quite ancient. It was a Canaanite site. It was here that Abraham subdued 5 kings. It goes back to the patriarchal period before the conquest, before Joshua entered the land as a nation. The area was attacked by Joshua, but it was also the area where Jeroboam most famously set up his altar. We'll come to that in a moment. This was the northernmost extremity of what Abraham saw when God showed him the land. This was the northernmost, of what Moses saw. From Mount Nebo, this is the northernmost extremity of what God showed to Moses. It features repeatedly in the prophets, especially Jeremiah, but not only Jeremiah, and is also very, very important in the book of Judges. There was an important battle here, and it marked the northernmost part of the conquest of King Asa, when King Asa tried to bring repentance to Israel and bring the revival that was happening in Judah underway up north. This was the far as he reached. It escaped the reforms of King Jehu. King Jehu was the only king of Israel who tried to bring repentance to the north. And this place was so far gone that it escaped his attempts to bring judgment on the idolaters. The tribe of Dan was deleted from the 12 tribes you see in the book of Revelation. 3 passages go together: Genesis 49, Revelation 7, and Revelation 14. The tribe of Dan is deleted. Okay, the tribe of Dan is deleted. The tribe of Joseph is, of course, split into 2 of his sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, to make way for Dan. Dan was deleted because of their sin, and the sin that took place culminated and climaxed where we are standing. The golden calf was an emblem of all that should have been abhorrent to an observant Hebrew. It would have been associated with the gods of Egypt. They made a golden calf in the Sinai, and that was the great rebellion in the Sinai when so many fell under God's judgment. Of all things to build a golden calf, they set up 2. One at Bethel, the other one here, from the northern extremity to the southern extremity. And it became almost a colloquialism or an idiom. From Dan to Bethel meant the entire realm of the northern kingdom. After Solomon's sin, you had this schism. Rehoboam and Jeroboam. There were 2 Jeroboams, and one was worse than the other. Let's look at 1 Kings chapter 12, please. In verse 27, Jeroboam is speaking, and he says, "The kingdom will return to the house of David. If this people go up to offer sacrifices in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem, then the heart of this people will return to their Lord, even to Rehoboam, king of Judah. And they will kill me and return to Rehoboam, king of Judah." So the king consulted and made 2 golden calves. And he said to them, "It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold your gods, O Israel, that brought you up from the land of Egypt." They replayed the rebellion that happened under Aaron in the Sinai. And he set one in Bethel, and the other he put here at Dan, at this very spot. This is the altar. This steel structure is obviously built to replicate the horns of the altar and show you where it was. And he made houses on high places, and he made priests from among all the people who were not of the sons of Levi. He ordained a false clergy. And Jeroboam instituted a feast in the 8th month of the 15th day of the month, like the feast which is in Judah. And he went up to the altar. Thus he did in Bethel, sacrificing to the calves which he had made. He stationed in Bethel the priests of the high places which he had made. Then he went up to the altar which he made in Bethel on the 15th day in the 8th month, in which he devised in his own heart. He instituted a feast for the sons of Israel, and he went up to the altar to burn incense. So he worshipped at the golden calf above Jerusalem. The reason he would have worshipped at that one instead of this one was simple. Most of the 10 tribes lived north of Bethel, and they were used to going south towards Jerusalem. But by having one at Bethel, you don't have to go all the way. Just go 85% of the way. We have one here. The other one, what actually was probably the main one, was built here at Tel Dan. Now we know this famous story that takes place. God begins sending prophets, and we see there was a true prophet who God sent. And the story takes place that the true prophet listened to a false one and wound up in the same grave with him. Those who follow false prophets wind up with the same judgment as false prophets. This place could have been destroyed by King Jehu. But Jehu had the same motivation as Jeroboam. What was that motivation? He was keen to keep control of the throne for himself. He did not want the people to return to the house of David. Therefore, he left idolatry in place. What happened here represents failed revival. It's what happens when you go back this far, no further. We'll get rid of that, 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 but if we touch that, it'll affect us. Now, this kind of compromise is a certain death sentence for any revival. The one man who tried to bring revival to the north was Jehu. Every other king of Israel was backslidden completely. He was the one guy. He got rid of all the high places, all the idolatry, all the priests of Baal, all the sons of Ahab. And then he turned against the princes of Judah who compromised with the house of Ahab. He came up, he came up, he came up, he purged everything. But he wouldn't come here. If that goes, I'll lose power. I'll lose position. This same kind of error has been replayed very often throughout church history. What would happen if Nicky Gumbel was to say, we're not going to sprinkle infants anymore. We're going to have believers' baptism. Well, that's what Luther said. No, keep sprinkling the babies. That's what Calvin said. Keep sprinkling the babies. That's what Zwingli said. Keep sprinkling. The revival goes this far, no further. When people's personal interests, when their personal power base becomes threatened, they don't want the revival to change everything. They want to bring revival up to a certain point. We'll change certain things. But the reformers were not radical enough. This is an age-old problem. Now those same churches that didn't go far enough are ordaining homosexuals. They're as bad as Rome ever was. This place is a monument to what happens when a revival does not go all the way. It came up north, it came up north, it came up north till it got here, then it stopped. No, you can't touch that. Yeah, but it's not biblical. Yeah, but don't touch it. Yeah, but, you know, God says it's wrong. Don't touch it. What's his motive? This place represents the supreme tragedy in the history of the Northern Kingdom. The one time, the one guy who could have made a difference. He did so much good, so much right, he was relentless. He came quite far, but he didn't come far enough. He didn't come to tell Dan.
Vicky, how are you feeling?
I'm doing a lot better. Oh, there we are. There for the children of Dan. Went up to fight again. And that was Dan. I thought, well, that's why he's been like that. Looks like bunnies, doesn't it?
Jacob. 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 Jacob.
Sorry, Ronnie,
Jacob.
אני רוצה ללמד
לא, אבל
משמח.
רציתי להגיד משהו פה בשעה?
לא, אני מעדיף במזבח.
Okay. This is the gate coming into the city of the Israelite city of Dan, not the Canaanite city of Laish. That's something completely different. Here you'll see dressed stones.